I'm sitting in my tiny little garden here. The sun is actually shining behind me, but I'm in the shade next to my logs, trying to, as much as I can, get back to some form of nature here in the town that I live. We spend a lot of time on this channel, and I think in a lot of other groups, Telegram groups, WhatsApp groups, and other various social media platforms, talking about the problems that we have and identifying the nasty things that are being pushed upon us, the tyranny of the government, the anti-human policies that have been pushed towards us, the continual pushing of stuff that nobody's actually ever asked for, the digital IDs, the CBDCs, the threat of the 5G that no one's actually wanted, the continuance of net zero policies on this myth of man-made global warming. And we keep pushing back, and we keep exposing stuff about the Luciferians and the Satanist practices, the stuff that happens to children, and so on and so on. And I don't think that we spend enough time actually thinking about what we really want. We're so busy reacting to all the nonsense and the distractions that are thrown up at us, the wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, and our own pressures of trying to fight back against the councils who are charging huge amounts of money for the council tax, which we discover is unlawful anyway, and we ought not be paying. That by paying any kind of tax, we are in fact aiding and abetting terrorism, because the money is going off to wars and to maim and murder innocent men, women and children. And nobody wants a war, and yet it seems like all the time the government seem to be fomenting this further and further to get us involved in something that none of us really want, and it's only going to benefit the bankers who are rolling out the money for all of this. And as I say, we don't spend enough time actually deciding what is it we really want, and how we could go about achieving that, instead of just pushing back. And I feel that it's time, and I have mentioned this in the past and fallen back into the trap of being distracted by everything, that we need to focus on a grassroots level very much on the things that we want and work our way towards them. You may remember in the past I've talked about the town of Biggleswick, which was an allegory. It was a story. It doesn't actually exist, although it exists in my mind. And if things exist in your mind and you're able to conjure up an idea or a concept, there's no reason why that cannot materialize in the real world if we put our backs into it, our determination into it, and make it happen. If we want a wholesome, holistic life in which the powers that we invest and give permission to administer our rules and give us guidance, if we invest in those, then we want them to work for us, and not the way that they have somehow turned democracy on its head, in which we find government and councils dictating terms to us, and yet they're our servants, and we elect them, or we think we do. So I think we must start to think about the things that we actually want, and start to turn our backs on the tyranny, turn your back on these idiots who think that they have the right to make the rules which work against us, and start en masse doing the things that benefit us. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but the first step is to stop being distracted by it and stop concentrating on all the negative and start to think about the positive. And in terms of myself, and I know many, many others, would like to step away from this continual overreach of capitalization, the idea that we all have to go to work from 9 to 5 or longer, we commute long hours, and we work for corporations, these dead entities, and we give them our sweat equity, and in return they give us a debt-based currency, the fiat currency, And then we find that we're ending up going to these other corporations, the supermarkets and the mortgage brokers and the bankers and all of these sort of people, and we give them back the money that we earned in order to have processed food, water that's poisoned and so on, with fluoride and things like that, that's not pure. And this hamster wheel that we come to the point in which we're so damn tired and distracted and fatigued by it all that we don't actually concentrate on the things that we want or build the kind of world that we would like. And I think that it's time that we started to think about where it is we want to go. For me, it is a step away from that. It is to build a community, and I use the word community in an advisable way, not for communes, not for communism, but as a body of people. Our language, of course, we know has been hijacked, and so I'm using a sort of an Oxford English Dictionary version of the word community, a grouping of people, a village of people, if you like, and where we are in tune with nature, perhaps growing our own food and vegetable, perhaps living together and embracing some of the old crafts that we had, using modern technology, of course, but not letting it take over us and control us. Whereas we have pride and we're able to be creative and laugh and dance and enjoy life in that sort of going back to the land, creating a village, an environment where people know one another, they know their neighbours, they know the people across the way, that people get together and help each other. They may have certain specialised skills, a blacksmith, somebody who's good at baking, somebody who's good at teaching children in small groups. But when, say, a harvest is required, they're out there helping with different disciplines and helping bring a cohesive response to a big thing that has to happen, like the bringing in of a certain harvest or whatever it might be. So that there is, for me, this seems to be the most sensible thing, a village approach that takes the best of the old times that we know about and the best of this modern era that we know about and push back against the tyranny. But the key, it seems to me, is this business of not being distracted and being focused with energy and determination to create the kind of world that we want, instead of pushing back all the time about what we don't want. Let's be creative, let's manifest the future, and let's somehow make it work.